So thank you very much to Mr. Minister and to Gideon. So we will continue with our first round table. Thank you.
My name is Raymond Klein. I'm a journalist from Luxembourg, and I will introduce the three guests that will be part of this roundtable. This roundtable is more about the situation as it is now and the ways in which those people are coping with it. First, to my left, Meragul, who is a law student and is an activist in East Jerusalem. Then Jonathan Shapira, who is a musician. He will later also sing for us, but for now he's here because he was a captain in the Israeli Air Force and he refused to be that in 2003, and he set up a letter refusing to serve because of the occupation. So he's one of the combatants for peace, as the organization is called. And then here is Tamar Alon, who is a 21-year-old Israeli refusnik. So she refused to do her military service because of the occupation. And for that, she spent 130 days in prison and now is working in social projects. And my question would be, you are yourself a refusnik. You are also in the organization Mezavot, which is an organization that helps other people who are refusnik. Why should a person refuse to do military service, and why did you do it?
So hello. First I want to say that my English is fine, but don't judge me. So I'm Tamar Alon. I'm from Tel Aviv. I'm 21 years old. And I want to say what I'm doing right now. I just finished to do civil service. I will explain later what it means. I did the first year. I did my service in a shelter for beaten women. I worked with their kids that came with them. And the second year I did in a shelter for youth in risk. And now I'm officially, and I finished it last month. After 2 years, and now I'm officially starting my adult life, and I'm starting to rent an apartment, and I'm moving to Haifa, and I'm starting to work in the same place I did civil service. I'm starting to get paid for what I did. So I'll start and say that in Israel, every Jewish teenager, when they graduate and they're 18, they have to go to a military service, to the army, and it's the law. You have to. There are two ways not to do it. If you have a disease, a health issue that because of it you cannot be drafted, or if you have a mental issue. So that's two ways you cannot be part of the army. So I'll go, that was the introduction, and now I'll go to me, to myself. I grew up in a left-wing family. My father was an officer in the army, and then in 2000, he refused to serve in the occupied territories. He was also in jail for 20 days, and I grew up in Combatants for Peace with Jonathan. And I knew Palestinians, but it was part of my life. And when I was in high school, like every Jewish teenager, when I was 16, I got my first order. It's the first time that the militaries contact you, and you need to go to a base and to have an interview, and they ask you questions, and they want to find what job in the army will fit you, because everybody's going to the army, so it's... and like all my friends, I went, and I wanted to be charming and nice, because I am, and I want them to want me, because everybody's going, and I want to be in a very good job, and to do a great job and everything. And they were impressed, and they sent me invitations to interviews in specific units. And I went to interview in the intelligence unit. And then I went out, and I was like, no, I cannot do it. It's insane. I cannot be part of it. And then I went to another interview, and again, I went out of the interview, and I was like, no, I can't. And it started to... I started to think that maybe I cannot be part of the military service, part of the army in general. But everybody was drafted. Like, also my father drafted. He was in the army. It's the fact that we're left-wing doesn't mean that we cannot be drafted. And all my friends was starting to figure and close what they're going to do, and I was a little freaked out, and I didn't know what I'm going to do. And there was one moment that I remember that something happened that moment. Of course, in Israel we have a Memorial Day, and every year we have in that day ceremonies, and there is only one ceremony that is we call it the alternative ceremony. It's a ceremony that remembers all the victims, Palestinians and Israeli, and it's very radical. And of course, my family is part of it, so I went there, and not part of the organization of the ceremony. And in 2016, it was, I think, 3 months before my draft day, the supposed draft day, and I went to the ceremony, and I remember two speakers. Both of them lost their sisters. One is Palestinian. His name is Arab Aramin. He lost his sister in 2010. And Igal Elchanan, he's Israeli, and he lost his sister in 1997. And both of them they're friends. They are standing together on stage, and they are talking together, and they are hugging, and they both are feeling such a huge hole in their hearts because of what's going on and the occupation. And I remember both of them said the same thing. They both said that they see the murderers of their sisters as victims also. And I was shocked. Wow, they're not victims, they're murderers. But then they explained, both of them, one in Arabic and one in Hebrew, that everybody is a victim of the occupation in that situation. And I remember when they finished, I looked at my mother, she sat next to me, and I told her that I don't want to be a victim. And I think that was the moment when I decided that I cannot be part of the military service. And that was a hard decision, because, as I said, everybody has to go to the army. And all my friends were about to draft. And then I had to figure how will I release, because I have to. And it was obvious to me that I won't lie. I won't go to a psychologist and say that I have a mental issue, because the fact that I don't want to be part of the occupation and the fact that I am against the occupation doesn't mean that I'm crazy. They are crazy that they are asking me to be part of it. So I won't tell them that I'm crazy, because I'm not. And I don't know how it happened, but in the same time that I decided that I want to draft, there was a girl, her name is Tair Kaminer. She's also a refuser, and she was in jail. And I don't know how, but she's from Tel Aviv, like I am, and she went to the same high school that I did. So I found her on Facebook, and I wrote her a nice message like, hi, I'm thinking I don't want to draft, but I don't know, maybe you want to meet me? And she was very happy that I wrote her that message. And we met, and I remember this meeting, and she was very, very nice. And also she opened my mind to the option to refuse. But it means that if I'm refusing, then I'm going to jail. It's a military jail, but it's jail. And I decided that that's what I'm going to do. And my family never told me what they want me to do, because they want me to take my own decision and to make my own, to find my opinions by myself. But when I told them that what I want to do, they were very supportive, and they helped me through all this process. And so I was in military jail for 130 days. And after I released from jail and from the military service, under the title of bad and severe behavior, because I'm a bad girl, I did civil service, which means that all my friends were some of them in the army. They are doing 2 or 3 years, and I decided that the fact that I don't want to be part of the occupation doesn't mean that I don't want to volunteer not to my country or to my nationality, to my community, to people that need, I don't know if help, but I want to volunteer and I want to do social work. So I did civil service for 2 years, and like I said before, I just finished it. So I think that's my story in general. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your story. I would like to ask the rest of the panel maybe to react. One thing that you mentioned is that ceremony on Memorial Day, the alternative ceremony, where you met people from both nationalities, both nations, both countries. And maybe you can say something about that, how important, or what is the importance of those contacts and those talks together and stuff like that?
Well, it's a bit tricky because I'm not here in representing Combatants for Peace. It's true that I was one of the founders together with your father and with my brothers. But today I'm part of another movement that is called the BDS movement. We think that it's very important to struggle together, and I can tell you many things about the meeting of former fighters together and the emotional and maybe even spiritual change that one undergo when you start that, when you are suddenly in one room, captains, officers in different ranks in the Israeli military, and Palestinian fighters that spend years and years in prison for fighting for their freedom. You go through a very strange and amazing process. You go into one room, feeling fear of the other, holding on some of your own identity from before, and you get out of this room a totally different person. The we and them that you had before cannot exist anymore. It's like a wall that crumbles down, and your identity is not changed, it's expanded. I'm not only an Israeli anymore. I'm not only a Jew anymore. I'm not only a man. I'm also, part of me is also my Palestinian brother that just happened to, by some chance of the cosmos, to be born in few kilometers away from where I was born, to a different family, a different people. And it's a very deep process of, in a way, falling in love with your former enemy, and then becoming something that is solid, and together you struggle non-violently for a just cause. So just a little bit, that was a little background about the Combatants for Peace that creates every year since the last years. It's already maybe more than 12 years, I think, that we do this ceremony. But nevertheless, and I know that it's too long, but I'll just conclude that it was amazing, and the struggle together was something that changed the life of all of us. But we moved on with our lives. I became a musician, I facilitate workshops, I do this, I travel, I'm here, I'm there. Several of my friends became PhDs in the academia and stuff. And the Palestinian parts of this organization are still in jail. So to bring you back to what Gideon Levy said at the end of his presentation, it's not a balanced situation. It's not two people fighting over a piece of land. It's a brutal apartheid, it's a brutal occupation, and even if I'm on the side of the oppressed now, I'm still part of the superior. So with this little reference, I want to connect it that I personally decided that I need to make the next step and be in a solidarity movement with Palestinians, led by Palestinians, which is what today for me is the BDS movement, is the biggest non-violent initiative happening around the world that gives opportunity to everyone, even if you are a teacher or a farmer or a politician, millions of kilometers on the other side of the planet, you can still be part of this struggle. And that's where my heart and my struggle is today.
Okay, thank you. What about you, Meragul? What is your experience with meeting people, Israeli activists who refuse the occupation?
First of all, thank you for having me here. So it's not that much that I see Israeli activists. And this is like one of the few times that I've actually met someone who refused to go to the military. So for me, when I heard her story right now, like in more details than I read about, it's like, wow, okay, I'm like so proud of the movement and the step that she took, that she saw that something is wrong. And she had the courage to stand up for her own nation and say, oh yes, there's something wrong with my government, there's an occupation, and I have a voice, and I am privileged enough to go and say, yes, there's something wrong, and I want to stand up for the people who are less privileged and under the occupation. So for me, it's also eye-opening that, yes, there is a lot of activists in Jerusalem, in Palestine, and all over Israel, we can say also. So for me, like, this is first experience to sit down with two activists who are fighting for my cause like I am fighting for my cause. So for me, like, I'm also overwhelmed from all the emotions and their spirit from this occasion. So thank you.